What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Pod Scum. This right here, as you all know, is the podcast where we dive into the deep, dark, murky waters with a plethora of legendary guests. I am, of course, your host, your bastard of ceremonies, the #1 scumbag, Rex Ruger. That's REXXX. Don't get that shit twisted. You might also know me as the King of Sleaze, a.k.a. the Hair Metal High Priest, and most importantly, a.k.a. Diamond David Lee Roth Jr. That's right. I take this shit serious. I have a fleet of attorneys working on this. And the DNA testing is almost where we want it and conclusively will prove that you are looking at the son of glam, the front man for the band. Just smoked a few grams. I got 1 million fans. I'm your ice cream man. Mr. Wop Bop, Loo Bop, Wop Bam Bam, Shazam. Hot damn. Oh, I'm feeling good. And more importantly, oh, I'm looking good. So is everybody in the house. So is my beautiful audience. You guys know how I get down. You want the quaff like Roth. Get you some. Coming to you from the Lavender Lounge of Love. Oh, God, my heaven, my utopia, my paradise. Joined as always by the Keith Hernandez puppet, who I could not do this without. My right-hand man. Together bringing you the No Frills podcast. You don't get no frills because we don't know how to deliver them. But we can give you plenty of thrills. And that's looking at this face. And with all due respect, Keith, your face as well. Obviously, the second greatest frontman to ever do it. And speaking of doing it, I'm still looking for virtuoso level players for my Glam Sleaze passion project, Love Sword. No one seems to want to take me up on it. Everybody's intimidated, probably rightfully so. It's a lot. It's a lot being the back and band behind the man. But hey, you know, you don't roll the dice in life. You don't get to hit the big time. And playing with me is the big time, folks. And tonight, of course, like every other episode that you've come to expect from the Pod Scum brand, we are bringing you a fucking good one. And our guest is here right now, so we will chop it up with him on Pod Scum. Enough of the fucking around. Right after I get that out of the way. Let's do it. Cannot wait. We got a good one here. Boom.
What's going on?
How's it going, buddy?
All right, what's happening?
I'm glad we got the chance to do this, man. And you know, I've looked back at my schedule book and I realized, holy shit, I'm knocking you guys in BUCKCHERRY off one at a time here. You're the third guy I've had on from the band, so you know, I appreciate you coming on, man. You guys are like great guys. You know, you certainly seem like you don't shy away from understanding where we are in the music business nowadays. It is kind of important to do like social media and kind of you know, really getting out there and promoting yourself, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, people won't know what's going on unless you let them know. You know?
Yeah.
And social media is the platform for everything now. So it's you know, it's people aren't looking at you know, they're not getting any information from TV or magazines or any of that sort of thing. So
right,
social media is kind of everything. So.
And now you joined the band in 2019. How do you make the connection with the guys in BUCKCHERRY? You previously know them? You auditioned for them? How does that work when you end up in the band?
You know, somehow I mean, you know, we kind of all were in the same LA scene for a long time, and it's a miracle that we weren't all friends from way back, as far as I'm concerned. But you know, just kind of different circles, but you know, kind of the same circles as well. But I've been you know, I've worked for a lot of bands. You know, I've played for different people too. So I guess somehow I ended up on Stevie's radar, and when they were in need of a new drummer, and he had seen it, you know, me play or some videos or something, and that I had posted, and he just called me up one day and asked me if I was interested in joining, and so it was kind of just like that. And of course,
And then what's the thinking time on something like that? Like how long do you roll that around your head before you join a BUCKCHERRY?
It wasn't even a question in my head. You know, they well, I mean, for one, you know, it's like I love the music,
Yeah.
and secondly, these guys love to work. They love to tour. You know, and
Yeah.
that for me was a big deal, because you know I've had other opportunities to play with different bands that you know are known bands, but you would look at their schedule and you'd be like, wow, these guys only work like 1 week in a month,
Right.
or maybe 2 months out of the year or something like that. And that just couldn't, I just couldn't do it. You know, it's like I was already behind the scenes working for a lot of bands like Slayer and that was keeping me busy all year long,
Yeah.
you know, and and so it had to be something that you know that actually made sense feasibly, you know, for
Yeah.
me to make that transition. It had to be something that was going to keep me busy, because I was already busy.
Right. Right.
You know,
You want to
so
stay busy. Yeah. You want to.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. And you know, you talked about, you know, how much these guys like to work, how much they're out on the road. You know, how does that narrative change for you, you know, as you get older and you know, we can't replicate the things we did in our teens and our 20s. You know, you still like that kind of existence of being out on the road even as you get older. You know, obviously you're doing one of the more physical jobs in the band as well. I mean, drumming and on the road. I mean, you know, how do you balance that, you know, as you age?
I don't really have an issue with it, you know, to be honest with you. I feel better the more that I play. You
Okay.
know, it's kind of like, you know, drumming is a real physical instrument, but
Yeah.
it's like somebody, if you ask anybody, you know, that has a healthy lifestyle, you know, they have an exercise regimen. It's like the more they exercise, the better they feel.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
people that don't exercise that
Yeah.
get you know, lazy, or their muscles tighten up, or they just, you
Yeah.
know, it, you know, it's just that whole thing. Body in motion stays in motion.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
so this is your first BUCKCHERRY album, though, correct? The 10 album that just came out.
no,
Or
I
no,
did Hellbound.
that's right. That's right. That's right. You
Yeah.
were on Hellbound. So, so prior to joining the band, then you were a BUCKCHERRY fan.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah,
you know, anybody that likes rock and roll, who wasn't, you know,
I know.
in my opinion, it's pretty amazing to me that, and BuckCherry's one of those bands. Like I've worked and toured with a lot of bands that were different genres, heavier genres, you know,
Right.
and the great thing about BuckCherry is like, um, I have not met a person that didn't like the band, because BuckCherry just always delivers just true rock and roll, you
Yeah.
know. And even if you're in a heavier band that's out right now, we all had the same influences. We all loved AC/DC. We all
Right.
loved Aerosmith. We all loved, you know, the same bands, you know, and so the brand of music that BuckCherry always puts out is something that, you know, you know, no matter what kind of music you like, if you're into heavy music now, or you're playing heavy music and stuff like that, you still go back to the roots of where you came from. You know, it's like we
Yeah.
all like, you know, the same thing. So it's a really cool thing. You know, but Cherry didn't was never really like one of those bands to me that was a gimmicky kind of thing. You know, they
Right.
had elements of all the styles of music that I loved. You know, there's some punk in there, you know, and actually there's a large influence of you know, punk
You can
that
hear it. Yeah.
that's in the band.
Can.
Yeah. um and you know, that's where a lot of us started our roots too. It's like when you're 15 years old, you all, you know, you listen to, you know, you're a
Yeah.
skater and you're listening to Sex Pistols and DRI and Descendants and, you know, all that sort of 7 seconds. And you know, that's, as far as, you know, I'm concerned, that it was a perfect fit too, you know. And then we graduated and let's start listening to other styles of music, and Buck Cherry kind of, for me, encompasses all of it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, Josh has such a distinct voice, you know. He's kind of like, to me, it's kind of like Lemmy, right? Such a distinct voice. Anything that Lemmy would sing on is going to sound like Motorhead.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I agree with that. Yeah.
It could be rockabilly. It could be a you know, a thrash metal song or whatever. You put Lemmy's voice on it, it sounds like Motorhead.
Yeah.
You know, and I think Josh is that same, you know, has that same quality in his voice. Whereas BUCKCHERRY could do a lot of different things, you know, go into punk, go into funk, go into metal, go into arena rock, do ballads,
Yeah.
but it all sounds like BUCKCHERRY because of you know, that distinct voice that you hear.
And for you personally, you and or the band, how did COVID affect you guys? Everything, you know, we're all hunkered down. Everybody's quarantined. Yeah. You know, the plug's been pulled on live shows. You know, how did that time period treat you guys, you individually and the band?
Well, you know, when COVID came out, we had already been touring that year, and we had already done a number of shows by the time we found out, like, oh, people are starting to get sick, you know, because I think it was like March or something like that of 2020.
Early 2020.
And we had started touring early in January. So we had been, you know, and a lot of people actually after the NAMM show were saying, oh, I got the NAMM-thrax. You know, a lot of people get sick from NAMM. But I honestly think that those were some of the first cases of COVID, you know. You know, we know it came from China. At NAMM, the entire bottom floor was all the Chinese distributors for a lot of stuff. I'm not trying to blame China, but I think a lot of people ended up getting COVID and didn't even realize what it was. Yeah. And so we were touring, you know, we had a full schedule, and we were going and going and going. And about March, they said, you know, we got to pull back a little bit, but we ended up, you know, as everybody, we had to pivot, figure out what to do. We still ended up doing about 20 shows after that, doing things, taking all the precautions that we needed. But, you know, a lot of them were like Sturgis. Sturgis didn't stop. You know, a lot of other biker fests didn't stop. They would have these rallies on private properties, like in Iowa and in different places, and we all played those, and we were fine. We were completely fine through all of that. You know, there wasn't any cases of anybody getting sick. And you know, we just kept our distance, and it was cool, you know. And we did a podcast that was great, and they were doing the live shows. People couldn't come to the shows, but it was one of those things. I think it was in Wisconsin that we did that, but we just kept busy. And the great thing is that we took that time, and we ended up getting a new record deal, and we ended up recording the Hellbound record.
Yeah.
You know, so we were
productive. It was time well spent. It was time well spent then. Yeah.
Absolutely. We didn't stop. We kept busy. We did what we had to do. We adapted, and we overcame. You know,
one thing I love about this band, though, I love the old school mentality. And, you know, I obviously BUCKCHERRY has been doing this a long time, but, you know, you guys put out a new album, and it's a full length. Does Josh and or the band, you know, have a definitive opinion on that? Does BUCKCHERRY like to release a full LP? Because obviously, you know, that's a very divided topic nowadays. A lot of people are putting out singles. You know, you know, it feels like the music world is afraid that people are going to forget. You know what I mean? They just want to keep flooding and keeping their name out there. But you guys, you know, you go, you know, the craftsmanship is there. You put the songs together. You put out a full length album. Do you feel like that's the way Josh likes to proceed with things?
Well, I think that's the way everybody likes to proceed with it. You know, it's like that's what we always did. You know, that's what we're used to. You know, this new school of putting out, just releasing singles, that was brought up to us, and at one point we're like, you know, that's the way things are. That's what we got to do. But I don't know. There's just something about putting out a new record, the anticipation of saying, "Hey, new album's out." You know, we've been sitting on this new record. It just came out June 2nd, but we've been sitting on it since October. You know, so that was kind of a you know, hard to sit on it for that long, because we knew we had a great record, and we just wanted to show everybody. But we did release a single, and then we released another single, and then released another single off the album before it was actually dropped in its entirety. So you know, we kind of did it both ways.
Yeah.
In a sort of
And
way.
when you say, though, you sat on it since October, you know, for people that might not understand that, what does that mean? Like, you could have put it out in October, but like, what is the rationale or the thinking behind sitting on it?
Well, I mean, we recorded it in October, but
Okay.
you know, it still has to be mixed.
Oh, right, right. Okay.
You know, there's still a lot of stuff, post-production stuff that has to be done.
Yeah.
And then we just wanted to put it out to where it was going to be at a great time while we were able to actually come out and tour and support it. You know, it's unfortunate with Hellbound. You know, Hellbound debuted at #1 in the UK when we put it out, and we weren't able to go to the UK and support that record. But you know, that's not the case this time. I know there's a lot of other bands that actually put out records in 2020, and it just kind of got, you know, it was sort of a wash because they couldn't go out and actually let anybody know that there was a record out. You know,
I know. I've talked to a bunch of guys in bands out here, and I've asked that similar question, and it's just like they're gutted. You know, I mean, totally derailed a lot of great shit that they had coming up. You know, I mean, sucks.
Yeah,
it really sucks.
It sucks for everybody. It sucks for the fans. It sucked for all the vendors. It sucked for everybody, you know. And we were the first to go away and the last to come back, as far as you know, the you know, businesses out there and stuff. So,
and I'm sure I asked Kelly this and Billy when I had them on, but what's the creative process like when BUCKCHERRY does get together now to write music? I mean, you know, I think a lot of people perceive it as, you know, certainly Josh being the, you know, the founding member and still there after all these years, you know, it's probably perceived, you know, public perception's probably it's his band, you know, I mean, he's got the creative control or whatever, but does he open up that door to you guys? Is it a collaborative effort when you guys are making music together?
I mean, the inspiration comes from a lot of places. I will say that Stevie and Josh were basically the guys that started writing songs for this. You know, Josh wants music. Stevie gave him music. They demoed the music. And then what they did is they got together with Marty Fredrickson, who's produced Hellbound and this new record. And Marty's an amazing songwriter, and he writes with, you know, everybody from Aerosmith to Carrie Underwood and everything like that too. So they got together with him, did a writing session, and by the time we went in to record the record, I think they said there was like 30 songs that had been written already, including some of the stuff that we thought was great from the last writing session.
Yeah.
And so they basically, you know, write this stuff, and then they give it to us, and then we add our you know, kind of make it our own. We put our, you know, our mark on it, so to speak. But you know, that's just the way that it's done with this. I think Josh likes to make music and then go listen to it and write lyrics and melodies to it, and you know, that's the way it works. So it's cool. It's not like we're not doing it the old school way, like we're all sitting in a room and, you know, somebody's looking at the other person to come up with a riff and everybody starts playing along to it, you know.
That's a bygone era.
there has been songs like that have come up. I think So Hot was like that, actually. Stevie had a riff in mind, and he was like, hey, you know, he came to me during soundcheck and he was like, here, play along to this. And we did something, and then he like videotaped it on his phone, and then he went back and worked on it and kind of like really just honed it in and stuff like that too. So, but you know, that's just the way this band works. And you know, you can't, I mean, if you've heard the new record, you know, it worked.
Amazing.
You know,
an amazing
I think the last record was great, and
yeah,
I don't know what the creative process was like prior to that, but that's you know what it is now, and I'm sure that, you know, for future albums, you know, that process will evolve too, you know, and just like even for me personally, from the last record to this record, you know, working with Marty, I think he was able to trust me a lot more on this record because we had worked together now. And, you know, I feel like he gave me a lot more leeway to play the way I you know, heard the songs. And so it's cool. You know, it's an evolution. but I think, the band's on fire right now, and we're excited. We're already playing at least half of the record on the new, on live
Yeah.
now on tour.
Yeah.
So
yeah, which I am coming to see you guys, and I'm so excited because I'm coming to see you guys in Syracuse, and despite the fact that you guys are certainly capable of drawing large crowds, this is going to be nice because it's a very small, like intimate club gig that you guys are doing, a dive bar more or less, a legendary dive bar in Syracuse, but a dive bar nonetheless. But I love the energy that's given off though in shows like that though. It's great,
Yeah, well, we put on our show no matter where we are.
Right.
It's not like we perform at a higher level when we're playing at a big venue. It's like we play the way we play.
Right.
And I think that's what really shines through with as far as what the audience and the fans that come to see the show, they always walk away having a good time no matter what the venue is. I think people forget the venue, because they're just connecting with the show and the band,
right?
So that's awesome.
Well, it also feels like essentially, the venue kind of gets shrunk down to the little space that you're enjoying the show in, though. You know what I mean? So you're almost like in your own little world. You know what I mean? Or with the people that you're there with. You know what I mean? So for you, what was your upbringing like, though? In terms to backpedal a little bit, how soon did you get bit by the music bug, so to speak? Do you remember what age you were at, and did you have aspirations to do anything else? Were you one of those kids that was like, initially wanted to be a firefighter or an astronaut or something like that, or did you know music right out of the gate was going to be what you were geared towards?
Yeah, I think I wanted to be a pilot. Actually.
A pilot?
That was kind of my thing.
Yeah.
I've always been fascinated with planes and stuff like that. But no, I mean, early on, my uncle was a drummer. Is still a drummer, a very great drummer. And so I got turned on to drums early on by him. And, he'd give me a snare drum and give me a little pattern to play in and say, all right, I'm going to check on you. You better have this down. And so that was kind of my first introduction to drumming, and he always had these percussion instruments, and he always did the whole family thing where he would give my sister, a certain pattern to play. And then he'd say, okay, now you do this on top of it. And now you do this on top of it until we have this like jam thing going with percussion. And so, yeah, absolutely. So that was cool. So I owe a lot to my uncle Anthony, and like I said, he's still a great drummer, and he's the guy that I look to for validation out of anybody else. For him to give his thumbs up and seal of approval. So it's kind of cool because
and you obviously must have had tolerant parents and or family around, because, a lot of times kids come home and they're choosing drums as their instrument. The parents are like, oh my God, I mean, not the fucking drums of all things, I mean? Like,
I give it to my parents for that too. They were always extremely supportive of whatever I chose to do. And drums, they bought me my first drum kit.
Yeah.
And, but I do have photos of me when I was 1 year old with a Peanuts drum, jamming on that. And then I got the drum kit with the paper heads when I was 5, beat the crap out of that.
I was gonna say, how long did it take you to break your nose?
Yeah, I'm sure like maybe a first day or something like that. But so it was, I guess it was in the cards for me to play drums. I wanted to play guitar because I've told this story before. I went to my sister's high school talent show, and there was this band that played, and this guitar player came out and he played the national anthem for this rally that we were having, and or that they were having. I was just a spectator in the thing, and this guitar player came out, shredded the national anthem, and then broke into Mr. Crowley, and then this whole band joined in, and I was like, holy crap, I want to do that. I know a lot of people have their big aha moment when they see, a lot of people in our generation, it was like, oh, when I saw Kiss for the first time,
right.
Then I knew that's what I wanted to do. But for mine, it was a local band with a local guitar player. And, I ended up playing drums. There was a guitar that went around for sale in my neighborhood. And one of my friends bought that guitar, and another kid down the street bought another guitar. And I was like, well, can't be in a band if everybody has guitars.
Right,
you know?
right.
So I got drums, and we never formed a band anyway, but it was a good thing. You know, I had other friends that were way ahead of the curve, and they had bands, and I would go just listen to them rehearsing and just get up on the drum kit and just play, and it was just something that I just was able to do, I guess, naturally. I've never really thought about it. I just got up and played.
And to see, my son came home from school once, and you know, as all, you know, well, I don't want to say all kids, but as lots of kids do, you know what I mean? It sounds great in theory until they realize the work that goes in behind it. So I don't think my son ever got past I don't think my son got past bringing home the little hockey puck to fucking practice on, and that was So, you know, that was that was the end of his you know, drum career. So, but I certainly would have been, you know, I think looking back on it now, you know, even though when you're a younger parent, sometimes you don't have that patience, you know, and you're not really so stoked that that's the instrument they're going to pick. But I would have totally been on board and been supportive, though. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be. You have to be. I mean, you really have to be.
Absolutely. You know, and now kids, you know, it's like they have so many options and they have so many resources that you know, when I was learning how to play and stuff like that, I didn't have any of the resources that people have now. It's like, you know, now people are doing things that, you know, they're defying the laws of gravity because they have everything at the you know, on their fingertips. You know, if we had to figure it out. And, you know, I said, you know, I was talking to my wife earlier, and I was comparing it to, I said, you know, these days it's like with motorcycles, right? We grew up with Evel Knievel, right? And when he was making a jump, it was like the biggest televised.
You watched,
and and you watched, and he just, you know, did his jumps, and it was such a big deal. You know, now the guys that are riding, they're again defying the laws of gravity. You know, they're letting go of their bikes mid-air, sailing with it, grab it, catch it, and then do a reverse flip and land. And it's the same thing.
It's like back then we just wanted Evel Knievel like just to land it. That's it. We just wanted
to land. Right?
Yeah.
And these guys
survive.
These guys are doing insane stuff, and no, but it's the same for music. You know, it's like it's progressed like that too. That there's just like, you know, some players that you're like, holy crap, like, you know, but yeah, it's you know, but I learned the old school way, you know, by listening to stuff and being extremely influenced by certain drummers and trying to figure out the parts and you know.
Who are some of those guys? Who are some guys who's drumming that? Who are some guys who's drumming that you love, like as a fan that you love to listen to?
Well, I have to say one of my biggest influences is Tommy Aldridge.
Okay.
You know, and amazing. And you know, I've been lucky to, you know, I got to tech for Tommy for several years too. Yeah, so to be that close to somebody that you know, idolize his work and see him, you know, from about a foot away every single night was freaking awesome. You know, so him, Mickey D was also another you know, person that I love his playing when he was doing all the stuff with King Diamond and stuff like that. Also got to work with him for a long time. Very good friends, and he was a big one. John Bonham, of course, you know, Tommy Lee. I've always been kind of like the meat and potatoes kind of guys, the guys that just pouring their heart out and beating the crap out of their drums. You know, it's like that's what got me excited. You know,
right? That primal aggression. Yeah.
And you know, I know there's like two schools to drumming. You know, and you got the John Bonham guys and you got the Neil Peart guys. You know,
right?
And I love Neil Peart too, but I was definitely on the Bonham side of things. You know, and it just, that's the way he played is the way I heard things as well. You know, so it's cool. So. Just rock drumming.
And when you're going to get the chance to sit around, like, let's say, and, you know, and again, it seems like attention spans, I've talked about this ad nauseum on here, but obviously attention spans have dwindled. We're consuming music a lot differently. So when you do have some time to sit down, like, as a fan and just decompress and relax and listen to music, do you tend to fall back on kind of like your old favorites, or are you good about like, trying to seek out like, like newer bands and newer music? I mean, me doing this podcast now and being 50 years old, I'm trying to be that guy and not just be that old codger that just goes back and just listens to my shit from the 80s. You know what I mean? So, like, what's your musical, when you got a chance to sit and just listen?
Well, I don't really ever sit to relax and decompress and listen to music. It's like I want to be pumped up by music.
Yeah.
So I love things that get me wanting to play, and just really grab me. And that's the stuff. I mean, otherwise I'll listen to, yacht rock if I'm just hanging out wanting to relax, and all the old stuff, the Eagles and that sort of thing. But as far as I obviously have my favorites. I love Dio. I love Black Sabbath. I love, all the greats, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, all that stuff. That still gets me pumped, and that makes me feel like I'm 15 years old again, and reminds me of the love that I have for music and why I fell in love with it in the first place, But there's a ton of new bands that I really love too, and they're, doing this crazy progressive heavy music. There's bands like Ginger that are out there killing it. There's another one, 12 Foot Ninja, that I really dig. I mean, there's so many. It's like Arch Enemy's great, and there's a lot of new bands too that I really love. I mean, newer, just rock bands that I really love too. So I don't know. I just love music, I guess is safe to say.
And do you get a chance to go out and see a lot of bands like live, or is that hard to do because you guys spend so much time on the road? Do you still like to go out to the live setting as a fan and watch a band?
I do. Fortunately, we get to see a lot of the bands that I want to see on some of these festivals that we do.
That's nice.
But I go out and a lot of times I catch some of these bands, like if other friends are on tour when I happen to be home, or even out on the road, just so happens that we lined up and we're in the same city together and stuff. I'll come out and check it out. It is so saturated that it is hard to really find new music, that you can really connect with and that you really want to take time to listen to. But I try, I like to stay on the pulse of what's going on. And again too, like I was saying, there's a lot of great drummers out there that I get inspired by a lot of the new guys. I'm just like, holy shit, this is freaking great, and
pushing the envelope. And pushing you, I would imagine as well, Oh,
absolutely. I mean, I still have to play, the music dictates what I'm playing. It's like, I might be really inspired by a certain drummer that's playing a certain style, but I can't really, play our songs like that, so to speak. I'm not blasting through with fast double bass through Crazy Bitch or anything like that. Right. So it's like I gotta stay true to and honor what Xavier and Devin did before, and because I really actually do love it, and there's a place for the different styles, but I just really do appreciate all the different styles, and I think you have to be, if you want to be a well-rounded musician, you have to be able to find the value in what everybody's doing out there. And, and again, anything that moves me is, I'm going to like, drummers, it's kind of funny. Drummers and singers and guitar players, bass players, the style of music that they like often is dictated by the instrument that they play.
Right.
You know, like I could listen to some crazy over the top music that say one of my, Stevie is going to hate.
Right.
Because the guitars aren't doing anything except for following what the drums are doing. So,
right.
And then a singer is going to hate it because, well, there's no vocals, or the vocals are just screaming. There's no melody or
growling.
So,
yeah.
yeah. But I just I've always gravitated towards things that have really great drumming.
And as a drummer, is it important to play? I'm not a musician, myself, but I certainly see this topic being bandied about on different websites, like where you'll see people really like running down a guy like Lars, let's say, like from Metallica. Mm-hmm. Oh, he's not technically proficient. He's not good. But yet I feel like he certainly plays off a certain amount of feel. And when I listen to Metallica, and maybe again because I'm not in the business and I have layman's ears, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But it sounds good to me though. Like, what's your assessment on on individual guys like getting critiqued in bands like that? Because obviously, he sold millions and millions and millions of records. There's a formula mm-hmm. there that obviously works, but yet and I just picked on him as an example. But he seems to be a guy, who does the same thing that you do, drums for a living, that gets run down a lot.
Yeah, well. I don't think he's really worried about that for
no,
one.
he shouldn't. And he shouldn't be.
But I think it takes a certain amount of maturity, I guess, as far as being able to appreciate what drummers bring to the table.
Right.
It's not all about technique all the time.
Right.
It's for somebody like Lars. If there was another drummer that, let's just say for argument's sake, somebody that was a more proficient or technical drummer, right, and they played these songs and recorded these songs instead of Lars, the songs would have taken on a completely different
right.
life,
right.
Right. And I think for Metallica, a large part of the sound is the way that Lars plays.
Yeah.
I know he tries to play unconventional and he tries to think outside of the box, and maybe not everything that he comes up with is the greatest or the coolest. Right. I mean, if you even saw the DVD that the something monster whatever DVD that they released when they were having a hard time in the studio and stuff like that too. Yep. There was a section in there where they were like, "Man, can't you just play straight?" Like, why? Like, he was playing complete opposite of what they were doing, and I'm sure that probably got frustrating. But at the end of the day, you get a good producer like Bob Rock, and he's going to make it all come together. Right. But I mean, the same has been said for Charlie Watts. Same has been said for Ringo Starr.
Right.
But both of those drummers, you owe the sound of the band large. The feel of the music, the swing of it, is largely based on those drummers and the way that they play.
Yeah, and I think you make a great point, because you could plug somebody in, and this is very poignant. I heard James Hetfield say, ask that same question, and he said, Lars might not be the most technically proficient or the best drummer, but he's the best drummer from Metallica. You know what I mean? Like, you could plug a guy like Dave Lombardo in from Slayer, who is probably technically better than Lars, but if you plug him into Metallica, as you said, those are different songs all of a sudden.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, and people don't realize the subtle differences in some drummers. And one drummer can just completely change the sound of a band. If you replace them, and it's not always about being better. If you take any of these great punk records that we all love and listen to, a lot of those records were made and recorded when the guys were kids, right?
Right,
and they're still learning how to play their instruments. A lot of the drumming is super stiff. It's like
right.
But that has a sound in itself, because that tension, of the way that he's playing, you can hear the tension, you can hear the stiffness, and that's what creates that that sound for punk. If you get somebody that's totally fluid, you get Dave Weckl in there, who's one of the most proficient drummers at all.
Yeah.
I mean, of all time, and you put him in a punk band, it's not gonna it's not gonna sound right. You know what I mean?
It looks hilarious too.
Yeah. But
yeah, I want to ask though, like because as I mentioned earlier, the music business is so vastly different than what it was 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago. And of course, you guys just dropped this awesome fucking album, just a mere couple of weeks ago. But how soon in today's music landscape do you start to think like, okay, when do we fire up our next project? How soon is too soon, or how late is too late? Because as I said earlier, it does feel like people are like in a big rush to, I've got to stay relevant. I've got to be putting something out. People are going to forget. I have a small window here to capture people. Someone told me the other day on my podcast, 60,000 new songs being put up on streaming platforms daily. Songs. I mean, there's a large influx of music there. How soon do you guys have conversations about that? I mean, obviously you're going to go out, you're going to do shows, you're going to tour to support this album. But do you guys already start to think like, what's next? When do we get back in the studio?
I think it's different for each one of us. But I've heard Josh say in other interviews that he's done that, for him, he has to basically change gears and get into songwriting mode.
Yeah.
Once he's in songwriting mode, then it's bam, bam, bam. It's like a couple weeks, get it done.
Yeah.
And he's fully just focused on that.
Yeah.
All the other times, right, like for right now, I don't think he's thinking about that. I think he's just focusing on the shows. Yeah. And the performance and making the shows as great as we can. Yeah. So that record's out now, and we still actually haven't played some of the songs live. We this band, we actually don't get together and rehearse, believe it or not. Yeah. Like the songs that we recorded for the album, of course, we played on it. We recorded them, but then, as we're starting to play them live, we basically kind of play them together for the first time at sound check. Yeah. Because we all record our parts at different times, but a lot of the times, the first time that we play it will be just at sound check, and I think there's been one or two that the first time that we ever played it live was for an audience. Josh just kind of threw in there, says, let's just do this tonight. We're like, all right. But everybody is seasoned enough, I guess, at this point that luckily we can do that, and everybody does their homework. Yeah. And it's a pretty fine running, fine-tuned machine, I guess you can say that, with us going in there.
Yeah, I would say so. And, certainly BUCKCHERRY, one of the more, for the last, 20 plus years, been one of the most, if nothing else, one of the most consistently, good bands. I mean, the material is always great. The albums are always great. And that I can't think of a band who's been more consistent. I mean, either bands fall off, or they got those clunker albums in there that don't quite make sense and match up with the rest of their catalog. It seems like BUCKCHERRY's never really, encountered that. And I imagine that that's probably like due to a lot of the, proficiency of the players involved in Josh's songwriting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. They've always been really consistent. When I had to, really dive deep and go through the entire catalog to learn, all the songs for the first time. Yeah. I mean, I already knew a large number of them. I mean, I hadn't played any of them, but I knew a large number of them, obviously from just hearing them, and of course being a fan of the music from before. But when I really dove deep into learning the songs, it really gave me an even broader appreciation for the amount of music that they have, and it's all great. Yeah. I can't really think of a song that I just really hate. Yeah. Out of the entire catalog. So
to shift lanes a little bit here, though, you certainly, your day gig, so to speak, is certainly, working in a creative field. You certainly have a very nice creative outlet, playing in a rock band, but you also do art, and paint. So like, what does that, what does art do for you, creatively, that you don't get out in music?
I don't know that I don't really see it like that.
Okay.
I always have to be doing something with my hands.
Okay.
I need a creative outlet. So art for me kind of does the same thing that music does for me. As far as, for my head, it's like when I'm painting, I'm not thinking about anything else except painting. I'm in the moment.
Yeah.
And it's very relaxed, very therapeutic. When I'm playing drums, I'm in the moment. I'm not thinking about, I got to make my car payment, or I got to, do this or do that.
Right.
Take my cat to the vet, any of that sort of stuff.
Right.
And the same thing with I'm always doing house projects. I'm building things, building decks, building pergolas, doing stuff. I just love creating. I love the process of watching something be made out of nothing, and then sitting back and having that sense of completion and accomplishment. It's I love that. And then it's like, okay, on to the next one. Now I gotta put next.
And was art something that came natural to you? Did you take art lessons when you were younger? Did you just find that you just had a natural affinity for being able to paint?
Well, I mean, I just always did it,
Yeah.
And of course, like through normal school, I always took art classes and stuff.
Right.
But and I failed art, actually.
Oh, come on.
In high school. No, seriously, I did because I was playing in bands too at that time, like in high school. So I would stay up really late rehearsing with bands or playing shows with bands and stuff like that. So I had art for first period. So I always missed first period because I was just too tired.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't make it.
Okay.
So the teacher failed me. So yeah, I failed at art. But
well, there's your lesson from Francis Ruiz right there, kids. Get the first period. Get the first period. It matters. It matters sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then again, you might not have to get the first period because you didn't get there and you're still fucking painting. So, I mean,
Yeah. And that's something that, that's something that I do for myself too. It's like, I'm not painting to try to, I'm not painting for anybody except for myself.
Right. And that's healthy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the healthiest release when at the end of the day, you're doing it for yourself,
Yeah. Well, I paint for my wife too. But
yeah, well, you got to do that. You got to do that as a married guy because as all of us married guys know, happy wife, happy life. I mean,
absolutely.
And
when it comes to the art, she's actually my muse. She's the one who inspires me to do that and really pushes me. So
you need a good woman behind you. I thank God every day for mine too. 25 years. I mean, and
nice.
I'm sure that I'm a bear to live with sometimes. Aren't we all? At some point in time. So, I mean, it's very difficult. I told my kids that before too. You can't take that for granted. It's very difficult to share a living space with anybody. I mean, it's very tough to spend that much time with people. I imagine you're doing it, keeping a marriage together. Then you're going out on the road with these guys in a band, and that's like in a sense another kind of dysfunctional, functioning family.
That's a marriage.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, and Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was saying, we find our ways to, stagger, being out there on the road and stuff like that too. It's you have to, there's guys that wake up early. There's guys that sleep late, which is me.
Yeah.
After I play, I can't go right to bed,
Yeah. I feel that same way when I go to a concert. I can't come home and I feel just that charge, that buzz,
Yeah. And I'm still full of energy but I tell people I purposely do this too, because if we're playing at 10 o'clock at night, I don't want to wake up at 10 a.m.
Right.
That's not that early, but that's 12 hours before I'm supposed to be at my peak energy level and in play. So I try to narrow that gap as much as I possibly can.
That's smart.
And so I stay up to like 4, 5 or so, and then sleep till like noon.
Yeah.
and still get my 8 hours, but I get up right before sound check, go do my thing, and then it kind of shortens my day, and then I don't hit a wall before we play. So that's
so with the drumming being with the drumming being so physically demanding, I mean, as you get older doing it, do you feel like you need any kind of like a warm up process or anything like that, or are you comfortable just just going right to the stage and just getting into it?
I don't know. I spend about an hour. We all do. We all have our we call it the power hour.
Yeah.
So about an hour before we play, we start getting into our crime fighting outfits and and stretching the old carcasses, and doing that too. But no, I do a good at least 45 minutes of just stretching, and then I warm up my wrists, doing rudiments for a while, and then go out and do it. But it's cool, it keeps me limber.
Yeah.
I really haven't suffered a whole lot of unwanted pain. Elbow every now and again. That's I think there's like 3 of us in the band that all have this tennis elbow thing going on. But for the most part, it's just it's cool. I get my exercise at night. Josh, Stevie wake up early in the morning and they do their whole exercise routine. They're pretty disciplined when it comes to that, and they get it out of the way. But they do all that before I even wake up. So we're just on different schedules, which works out.
And I did notice when I perused your site and looked at some of the art, much to my chagrin, I did not see a David Lee Roth painting. And, I don't know if you've seen past episodes, but, I got the old man back here.
Nice.
I certainly am trying to prove this DNA case that you're looking at Diamond David Lee Roth Jr. So, I mean, I don't know if it's evident to you. It should be.
Well, illegitimate child.
Illegitimate, yes.
Yeah.
You try to become legitimate, but I mean, come on, let's try to get a David Lee. Let's try to get a David Lee Roth a painting done.
Painting, what? That's something I never thought of. Never thought of doing. So
he merits
there's a whole laundry list of subjects that I want to paint.
Yeah,
but he would be great.
Yeah,
he actually would be great.
And now you can go back. And now you can go back and tell the guys that you talked to, Diamond David Lee Roth Jr. And I might even grace the stage in Syracuse. Being as that I am the second, the offspring, the second greatest front man ever. I may jump up and do a number.
Yeah, there you go.
Show Josh how it's awesome. Really done.
Hope your dancing skills are up to par.
Oh, wait a minute. I got to dance too.
Yeah.
Oh, nobody said anything about dancing. Hold on. Josh sings and dances. Jesus Christ. That's a tough act to follow, man. No. I seriously, though, I've never seen BUCKCHERRY live, and I am really looking forward to it because I've just never.
Oh, wow. Yeah. All right. So, cool.
I've never heard a bad thing about BUCKCHERRY live. From what I've heard for years and years and years and years, always deliver live. So I'm always excited to see bands in a live setting, and very excited, because I've been to see so many concerts at the Lost Horizon in Syracuse, and it is a nice, quaint little dive bar, man. But I've just seen such epic, legendary concerts there. It's got a lot of history there.
Yeah, sometimes those shows are great. I mean, there's a lot of
the type, the dive bar, the low ceiling, the low stage, all that kind of stuff. It's just one of those places that's like just when you walk in there that you feel a certain energy in there.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a place in Brooklyn that's what's the name of that place? It's a tiny little dive bar too. The stage is like literally 4 inches from the tall. Yeah. And everybody just piles there, and all these great bands play in there. But they literally have to walk through the audience. There's no way to get onto the stage or off the stage except for going right through the audience.
I wonder if that's St. Vitus. Is it
St. Vitus? That's the one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It sounds like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's kind of the same thing. It's like, unless you're in the front, you can't see anything. But just the vibe in there is awesome. I was in there with Anthrax one time a while back.
Okay.
Yeah, good stuff. So,
and now, what do you think about this whole? What's your opinion on this whole Pantera reunion? Do you like what they're doing out there right now? Not to change subjects, but you mentioned Anthrax, though. I mean, You know, were you excited, you know, to hear that they were going to be, you know, back together in some form playing?
I think it's awesome. Personally, I'm a big Pantera fan, and
Yeah,
funny, I almost put on a Damage Plan shirt before this too, but so you know, I was a Damage Plan fan as well, but you know, I think it's awesome, and you know, the thing that people just have to get over is that they're not trying to replace, you know, the brothers. You know,
right.
It's like,
Right.
you know, I know Zach and Charlie very well, and you know that I know they're just paying tribute and honoring their legacy. You know,
Yeah.
and they're giving fans a chance to hear the music that they haven't been able to hear for a long time. You know,
Yeah.
Pantera got cut short for, you know, but people still want to hear that music. You know,
Yeah.
they're one of the greatest heavy bands that were out there, and to be able to hear, there's no way to recreate hearing that on that scale, giant stage, giant PA systems, without doing something like what's going on now, you know.
Yeah.
And I think it's freaking awesome. You know, Charlie is nailing all the parts, you know, and you know, he told me he spent a lot of time making sure that he got the right sounds. I mean, he took it serious, you know, and Zach is one of the most disciplined people that I know. And I know he absolutely, you know, both of them are just, they're not faking their way through doing this, and they're not calling it in.
Right.
And they're not doing it for the money grab that, you know, some people want to try to think that it is, you know. They're doing it because they were actually bros with these guys. They're doing it because they love the music, and it's a great chance to you know, honor the legacy of Diamond Vinny, you know. So
yeah, I agree with you.
I'm 100% behind it. You know, there's always going to be people that are going to, you know,
run it down.
Run it down, talk, and it's just like, man, you know, you can't do anything about that. You know, there's the people that I can say the sky's blue, and they're going to argue with me about it too. So,
and there's the people out there that are going to say BUCKCHERRY sucks and the new album sucks, and they are fucking wrong, because BUCKCHERRY is always fucking delivering. This album is actually a fucking a face melter. Just fucking great songs on this album, man.
Thank you.
I can't wait to come and see you guys live, man. I'm so pumped up, man. I reached out to Kelly already. You know, I hope I can get the chance, a small setting like that, to come and say hi to you guys, and, you know, actually get to meet in person, and, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And I can't thank you enough, you know, for spending, you know, the time with me tonight that you did. I think I could sit here and probably chop it up with you all night, but you know,
sure. Yeah.
But it's been a real pleasure getting the chance to talk to you. I love the new album 10, man. I wish you all the best out there on the road. I'll see you guys July 30th.
All right, brother.
Yeah.
All right, keep in touch for sure, and
I will do that, man.
When we get out there.
Yeah, I'll talk to you soon, Francis. Thanks so much for doing this, buddy. I appreciate you, man.
All
Thank
right.
you.
All right.
All right.
Cheers.
Later, man.
Bye.
And there he goes, folks. That is Francis Ruiz, drummer for BUCKCHERRY. That's the third member now. If you remember, I've had Kelly Lemieux on, the bass player, Billy Rowe, the guitar player. Now Francis Ruiz, kind enough to join me. I'm knocking these BUCKCHERRY guys off one by one. Josh is just such an exceptional frontman, so prolific. You know, just leading that band. And not only leading them, but leading them to the forefront of the rock and / metal world. I mean, they've been consistently doing it for years and years and years, no matter what players are in that band. Killer fucking lineup right now. I myself am going to see them at the legendary Lost Horizon in Syracuse, New York, July 30th. If you're in the upstate New York area, go see them. Small little dive bar club gig. You know, you're seeing BUCKCHERRY on a stage like that, small, intimate setting. And definitely go check out the new album they put out, their 10th album, entitled 10. They just put it out June 2nd. Man, oh fucking man. I mean, what else can you say? I mean, you've come to expect greatness from BUCKCHERRY. They don't disappoint on this fucking album, man. And I look back on all their past albums, and they never fucking do. The word disappointment and BUCKCHERRY, never in the same sentence. Never, never, never. And of course, BUCKCHERRY, Francis, all the boys. Rex Ruger approved. Nobody does it better than BUCKCHERRY, man, and been doing it as consistently, flying the flag for the rock slash hard rock heavy metal world. And, they're out there doing it, man. OGs, fucking rock warriors, man. So, give those guys their fucking respect and their just due. BUCKCHERRY, one of the best out there fucking doing it, hands down. So I want to thank Francis Ruiz so much for coming on here. That was really fun getting the chance to chop it up with him. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Go check out the new BUCKCHERRY album entitled 10. Just came out a couple weeks ago here, beginning of June. So go give that a listen, man. Go support everything BUCKCHERRY does. Hope you guys enjoyed that episode. And until we get together and we do this thing again, remember to take it easy and keep it sleazy.